Welcome to the Infuse Compassion Podcast, hosted by me, Amy Quisenberry.
And me, Mark Carpenter.
We are on a mission to make this world a kinder place for us all by bringing healthier human connection to communities, families, and organizations of all types and sizes.
Our goal is to create stronger relationships, more inspired teams, increased trust, and improved results.
So let's get started with more ways to infuse compassion into our world.
Hello, Compassionators. Welcome to this episode of the Infuse Compassion Podcast. Amy and I are really excited to talk to you today. We're doing a follow-up on the conversation that we had with Kevin Smith, who is the founder of Kindness Worldwide. And wow, we packed a lot into that 35 minutes or so that we had with Kevin in last week's episode. If you haven't listened to it, go back and listen, and definitely go check out kindnessworldwide.org, which is their website, and see what they've got going on. You're going to want to get involved in this movement. Amy, I want to just get your perspective off the top here. What were some of the things that Kevin said that really stood out to you?
Yeah, well, first of all, what stood out to me is Kevin. And I mean that from the way of, he's just a racehorse. And what do you do with a racehorse? You just let him run. You just let him run. And this guy, he has a vision. He has a passion. He is unchained. And he is on his mission. But I love it because he's like, this isn't my mission. Yeah. This is our mission.
And I love how the perspective on that for him was, I can't not do this.
Yeah.
It wasn't, oh yeah, I was looking for something like this to get involved in and to lead. No, he's saying, I can't not do this, but it's not about me, it's about all of us.
Yeah, yeah. And I really respect his vulnerability and authenticity around the uncomfortableness, the struggle that he's had to go through, embrace, realize, and really understand that, if he wants to be part of the solution, then that means he needs to get out of the way and be a part of it. And it's so powerful. There were several just beautiful blossoms, I'll call them, that he shared, and one of them was God's angels are everywhere. And this is something that I hold really close to my heart because anybody who's close to me in my life, they know what I'm going to share next. And that is that I talk to angels. I've been talking to angels for years, and they've been talking to me. And angels are like friends. If you ignore your friends, are they going to keep showing up? Probably not. But if you talk to your friends and you welcome your friends and you thank your friends and you ask for your friend and you ask your friends for help and then you express gratitude, right? They're going to keep showing up. So he has this army, this legion of angels, I believe, that are helping him in this incredible work that he's doing. And he credits Brooke, who is the center point of this story, as angel number one.
Yeah.
Angel number one, right?
And the other part of that stands out to me is, to be an angel, it's not like you have to perform some great miracle. It's just taking one little extra step of kindness and just being a little bit more considerate. Just taking that one little extra step is huge for people, and it can impact individuals in a way that you may not even know in the moment. You may think it's not that big of a deal, but that it's really important in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. So what about you? What are some things that you...
Kevin talked about that initial story where he left his wallet at the store, and this young lady, Brooke, had found it and didn't just turn it into the store manager, but took that extra step and actually took it to his house to give to him, even against counsel of her friend who was saying, you don't know who this person is. You don't know what you're opening yourself up to. But she took that extra step of kindness. And then this turned into a news story, but she was what she referred to as the blurry face, because it was the doorbell camera. And because they didn't have her permission, they blurred out her face in the news clip. And I loved Kevin's point about being kind to people means you see them. And you see them not as a blurry face. Nobody wants to be a blurry face. I mean, we may say, I want to be the one that sits in the background. I don't want to be in the forefront. But everybody has this innate need to be seen as a human. This is one of the things that I pitch all the time in my work about leading like a person. People want to be seen and recognized for just the good work that they do. And the more you can do that, the more those people are going to step up and give for you. Not that that's your goal. You do it because it's the right thing to do. I think I've shared this experience on here before, but I was at lunch with my son, and the server came up and he called the server by name. And I said, yeah, that's a really good practice. And it kind of gets the server to pay more attention to you. And he says, no, I just do it because people like to hear their name. It's just being polite to the server. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh yeah, I look like a jerk now. But he had such a great perspective on that people just want to be seen as people. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that is the essence of kindness.
And when we can really see people without a judgmental lens, right? But see them with our heart, there's such beauty in us.
Yeah.
You know, if we let that shine through. And, you know, that was kind of one of the pieces that Kevin spoke about also, is that we can choose what we see. We can choose our perspective, our lens. And choosing gratitude, going to a place of gratitude, right? Going to a place of not having a defeatist attitude of, you know, I don't know what to do. It's too much. How am I going to get through this? Versus, I'm really not okay with the way our world is right now.
Yeah.
I'm really not okay. And instead of pointing at all of these people that we don't like what they're doing, he said, I turned the finger around. I had to look at myself in the mirror and say, okay, Kevin, what are you going to do? And I think at the end of the day, you know, if you go back and listen to what all of our guests along the way, it's a beautiful threaded message. Guest after guest, episode after episode, we're hearing, okay, but this is what I did.
Yeah.
And so what are you going to do? What am I going to do? Each individual. And that's, guess what? When we get intentional about this, he talked about the tipping point.
Yeah.
That's when the tipping point can happen, right? Sometimes it feels like pushing a boulder up a hill, but we're going to get there, folks, together. Right?
Yeah. And I loved that perspective on that same line, where that initial act of kindness changed him in two ways. One, that he stopped listening as much to the news because there's so much negative that comes out on the news. But the second was the point that you were making, that he didn't feel powerless anymore. Mm-hmm. That he looked at that and said, in the past, I've looked at the problems in the world and said, but there's nothing I can do about it. I'm just one person. What can I do? Mm-hmm. But this allowed him to say, there's something I can do. I can even take just small intentional acts, but there's something that I can do to be a positive impact on the world. Amy, you know, I spend a lot of time traveling in the work that I do. And so I spend a lot of time in airports. And you talk about a place where you could see a lot of faceless people. Mm-hmm. People could just look like blurry faces, you know, throughout the airport. And that's one thing I try to do, is try to be really intentional about just making eye contact with people. Yeah. And just giving them a nod and a smile. Mm-hmm. And it is amazing. The people who will actually look up and make eye contact with you, they will smile back. they appreciate being seen, even if it's just for that passing moment.
Mm-hmm. There is an energetic shift that I can feel, right? There have been times, keeping with the scenario that you're on right now, let's keep with this theme. You're somewhere.
Yeah.
It's an already, there's a charge to the environment, an electric charge that you can feel. Think of the anxiety, the stress, the timelines that you're on at the airport, there's just a lot. We don't need to go down that, but there's just a lot, right? And when you look up and you make eye contact with somebody, whether they're smiling or not, and you give them a smile, a genuine smile.
Yeah.
And then I've been in those situations where they look up, a person will look up, and you could tell something's going on. They're in their head, they're not happy, they're frustrated. And instead of giving in to what's on their face, if you hold their gaze and you keep that smile, you will see a shift.
Yeah.
And there have been so many times where I've literally, and it's almost ended up with a, thank you, I really needed this smile. Like, thank you. There's no words exchanged, just thank you. And it is such a beautiful moment of, I don't know where this person was, but like, I feel like what just happened, we helped them get to a mentally, emotionally, physically better place, right? We
I,
can all do that.
I had an interesting experience along those lines, Amy, where I did that. I just made eye contact, smiled at somebody. We were waiting for a flight at an airport. And the person got up and walked over to me and said, "Do I know you?" And it was that thing where it's like, this person's looking at me and smiling like they must know me. And I said, "No." I said, I just noticed you there and just smiled. And they said, "Oh, well, thank you. I felt like I must have known you, that you'd actually acknowledged me here." And it was a little bit of an awkward moment, but at the same time, it sends that message that you were talking about. You're a person. I see you as a human being. I see you as a member of my tribe of humanity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's another thing, humanity.
Yeah.
One of the things he said is kindness is humanity's greatest asset. Well, can everybody just kind of sit in that for a minute? I mean, kindness is and I feel like we talked about this on another episode, but I'm going to say it again. Kindness
I
is
think it was
a
when we talked.
superpower.
I think it was when we talked to Sarah Shire, when she talked about how compassion is the one skill we need to teach our children if we want to change the world.
Yeah. I was thinking it was the Randy McNeely episode but I don't know. I mean, they're all around this, right? But that kindness it's a superpower.
Yeah.
It is literally a superpower. Like, you think about how kindness and compassion, both of these, how they can soften, they can strengthen, they can do so much. I mean, and both of them are free. Both of them are free. It doesn't cost. Okay. So I remember, I don't know if I told this story. Stop me if I did. You won't hurt my feelings. I want to be considerate to our compassionators out there. Okay. So I spent 3 months in Belfast, Northern Ireland. Okay. Incredible. All right. I'm not going to get into this a lot because it's not my culture. It's not my story. And I want to be respectful of the people who have lived this. But there's the struggle, right? So in Belfast, it's called The Struggle. And if you want to learn more about that, I'm going to ask you to go and research it, because I don't think it's appropriate when people that haven't lived it or experts are telling somebody else's story. But it's called The Struggle. There was a gentleman, I was sitting at a pub, I was up at the bar, and a gentleman sitting next to me, you could tell this man had lived many lives in this life. We're sitting there, we're having a pint, we're having a chat, And he shares with me that both of his older brothers were murdered in the struggle. And he said, I'm my mom's last son.
Hmm.
And for so much of my life, after losing both of my brothers, I was in the darkness. I was hating these people that took my brothers away from me. And then I looked at my mom one day and I saw that I had to choose kindness, because if I stayed in the darkness, it may result in her having no sons. And I couldn't do that. I had to choose kindness. And he looks at me and he goes, in this beautiful Irish accent, he goes, it doesn't, and I'm sorry, this was like in 2009, so I don't remember the currency numbers in Belfast, Northern Ireland, but he was like, I'm going to use English terms. It doesn't cost a penny. It doesn't cost a dime to be kind. It doesn't.
Yeah.
And I remember like carrying him in my heart with me and just being like, that is that at that point in my life, I was like, this is possibly one of the wisest people I've ever met in my life. And that it doesn't cost a dime. It doesn't cost a cent to be kind.
Yeah.
What a true North concept to just sit in and be like, I can choose kindness. I can choose that. And then imagine, like for him, his mom doesn't have to worry about him because he's chosen this other way.
Yeah.
He's not going to go toward the struggle and the fight. So that's
Well,
thank you
okay. So
the
for the
insight.
record, I do not think you've told that story before. So I think we're fine there.
Good.
The other point that comes out of that story for me is the equation of kindness bringing me out of the darkness.
Mm-hmm.
Kindness brings light.
Mm-hmm.
It brings light to others as you're kind to them, but by bringing that light to others, it gives light to yourself as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And so I like that comparison of kindness being light.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that, with that, gratitude is a big one too. I don't remember, this just happened. Oh, I know what it was. I was at the office yesterday and we had gone a couple of days, for whatever reason, the people who bring our bottled water, we have the big tanks brought in of water so that we can drink water. And there were a couple of days, because in San Diego you don't drink water from the tap. Let's just put it that way. So there had been a couple days and we didn't have water, and people are getting frustrated. They're getting concerned, and the facilities guy is really feeling this. And so there's talk. I hadn't seen the facilities guy yet. By the way, I love the facilities guy. He's just amazing. Tony is his name. Shout out to Tony. And I'm thinking the stress that he must have. So I walk into our main lobby and here's the water guy. And I go, oh, aren't you the talk of the town today? And he goes, am I in trouble? And I said, you know what, my dear, I'm going to choose gratitude.
Yeah.
I'm going to be thankful that you are here now and not worry about what's transpired so far. He goes, I appreciate that. And then here comes Tony, the facilities guy. And I'm like, gratitude, Tony, gratitude. And I walked away. Choose gratitude.
And it's such a great approach, because if you go to the frustration, it doesn't change anything for the better.
No.
It's not going to make there was probably some reason the water guy wasn't able to get there. I don't know if they got a delayed in their shipment of the water or something happened that they couldn't get there, but it's not going to change what's already passed.
That's right. That's
And it's
right.
not going to change anything positively for the future to go to the frustration. However, the gratitude will likely change something for the better in the future.
Well, and this is what was so beautiful about, I stepped away, but still saw what transpired between the two of them. And Tony goes something along the lines of, yeah, is everything okay? Did something happen? Showed up with curiosity, no
Yeah.
judgment,
Yeah.
right? And they and the water guy started to explain, yeah, we had a shift in whatever it was, the logistics. And he goes, okay. And then I walked away, and then I was back around in the office, and Tony is taking, because he's a new guy on this route. Tony's walking him around to all the water stations, getting everything set up, because Tony was like present, listened, and then let's get into action. Inspiration into action is another thing that Kevin shared with us. You know, we can stay and we can talk about stuff, right? Or we can get into action and make sure that our people that want water, we get them water.
Yeah.
How what are we going to do here?
Yeah.
So choosing gratitude, everybody got their water a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And that's usually the case. It just slows us down to live in the past.
Yeah.
And to be frustrated about what happened in the past. The only other point that I want to make, just hearkening back to the episode with Kevin, is to really encourage people to get out onto the kindnessworldwide.org website.
Mm-hmm.
Take a look at that trailer for the documentary. We're going to put it in our show notes here too, but look that up and really start watching for ways you can support that, because this is an opportunity to spread the message of kindness even further, and to get to that tipping point that Amy was talking about a little bit earlier, to where we're all on board with kindness and we can hold each other accountable for kind acts. Mm-hmm. And to really live the kindness that we want, that we crave as human creatures.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad that you directed everybody there. I do want to just kind of bring to the surface that I want to ask a question, is what I want. And I want people to kind of leave this episode with what is an act of kindness that you've received that has transformed your moment, your day, your life, and what can you do to pay it forward? It doesn't need to go to that person necessarily, but what can you do to pay that forward, right? Go into that space, remember how that person made you feel, that act, whatever it was, and then what can you do for somebody else?
Yeah. And the way that Kevin put it at the end of that episode was, how can you help someone feel seen? Mm-hmm. How can you help them feel like they're not the blurry face, but they are seen as a member of our human family? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks everybody for showing up. We love it when you show up, and we don't ask this often enough, but please talk to us in the comments. Let us know, is there a topic? Is there a guest that you want to have on? Would you like to be a guest? Do you have a story, a compassionate story to share? Reach out. Mark and I are all over social media. Let us know. All right. Yeah. Let's keep the conversation going.
Would love to hear from you. Thank you, Compassionators.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Infuse Compassion podcast. If you enjoyed the conversation, please share a review and like the podcast so other Compassionators can join us. Until next time, let's all do something each day to infuse compassion into the world. For more information on our guests, see the show notes. For more information on Mark and Amy, go to infusecompassion.com.